So you've seen in the news how a bunch of banks are now failing. How does this happen? And what exactly is going on to create a situation like this? Hey everyone, it's Logan. I am here to help you experience more freedom and control in your work and life. And because finances are going to play a big role in helping you experience control over your own life, today we're going to be talking about what exactly is going on with this banking crisis. The first misconception that we need to understand is what exactly is happening when you bring your money into a bank. A lot of times what we think we're doing is that we're bringing our money there so that the bank can keep our money safe, right? That's what that big safe is for in the back of the bank, is to make sure that all our money stays safe. Well, if that were the case, if we were using a bank as a protection service for our money, wouldn't we be paying a bank for that protection service? So it seems kind of strange then that banks will actually pay you to keep your money in their safe. So what actually happens when you bring your money to the bank is that you're actually loaning that money to the bank. We usually think that banks are the people who give out loans, but when you give money to the bank, they're taking out a loan in you. So the balance of funds that you see when you open up your banking app is not how much money you're storing in their safe, but it's actually how much money the bank is indebted to you. When you go to the grocery store and you swipe your debit card to pay for your groceries, what we think happens is that the grocery store sends a message to the bank and says, hey, can you send over some of Joe's money to pay for the groceries that he just bought? In reality, what happens is the grocery store is actually asking the bank, hey, there's this guy here trying to buy groceries, and he says that you're willing to pay for his groceries. Is that true? And the bank responds by saying, oh yeah, because I owe him $15,000. Yeah, sure, I'll cover his grocery bill. So the store responds by saying, okay, we'll trust you, and they let you go with your groceries. Over the course of the next few days, as that transaction clears, the bank doesn't send over your money that it happens to be storing in its safe to take care of that grocery bill. The bank actually sends over its money to take care of that grocery bill, and then updates its debt that it has to you. So as you spend more money from your bank account and that number starts to decrease, once that number reaches zero, when you have zero in your bank account, what that means is that the bank has settled its debt to you. So why would a bank do this? Why would it be so useful to be indebted to other people that the bank would actually be willing to pay people to be in their debt? So if you deposit or loan, say $15,000 to your local bank, they may give you an interest rate, maybe something like 2%. That comes out to, over the course of an entire year, about $1 a day for them to be able to do whatever they want to with that $15,000 that you have loaned them. Well, they can invest that money, and that's what they do, often maybe in the stock market. They'll use that $15,000 as leverage to try to make more money back through investing. Well, 2% is not a very large move. If you watch any stock throughout the day, you'll see that there can be easily 2%, 3%, 5% moves for a stock even in just half a day. All it takes in one particular day is for a stock to change 3.5%, for your bank to make $500 from your $15K at the cost of giving you $1 for the privilege to do that. So this is what happens behind the scenes when you loan your money to a bank. They're essentially a business, and you are kind of an investor who is using your money in exchange for a small return in order to fund their business. Okay, so this is obviously one of the worst investment deals anybody could ever participate in. And we're gonna get into exactly how we got into this situation in the first place, but let's now break down exactly what's happening with this banking crisis. When people come and loan their money to the bank has a reserve of money that it can use to then go and invest in different kinds of investments. And normally the government has regulations that state that a bank can't use a certain amount of that money for their investments. They have to hold in reserve a certain amount of cash so that when their lenders come back asking for their money back, they have that money available to give back to those public citizens. So what we're going through right now is that during COVID, the government actually removed those regulations. So banks didn't have to hold any amount of cash in reserve. They could invest as much of it as they wanted to. And so several banks used a larger amount of that money that they were given from the public to invest in assets that happened to, well, they didn't perform. Those assets went down in value. So when that happens, of course, what that means is, well, the bank doesn't have as much money as it owes to people. And as other investors started to clue into the fact that these banks don't have as much money as they owe to other people, it creates a bank run. They say, well, okay, I want to take my money out before other people take their money out, and that's what pushes the bank to fail. When one bank fails like this creates a kind of panic because all of the other banks are in the exact same situation. And so as the lenders come back, demanding their money back, the banks that don't have enough to return that demand will go bankrupt. All of this helps illuminate what a weird, strange, and fragile system we all rely on for our finances every day. But if this is such a bad deal, how do we all get into a situation like this? Most people don't knowingly sign themselves up for a bad deal. Usually when we find ourselves in a bad deal, it's because some form of manipulation was at play. When you understand the first principles of autonomy, you can actually break down all forms of manipulation to understand exactly what's been going on to create a situation like this. First, understand that all people can be thought of as essentially having two main parts. You have your goals, or what I call the head, and then you have your means to realize those goals, or in other words, your body. You have goals that exist in your head, and as you want to realize those goals in the world, you use your resources, your body, to help realize those goals. The big question turns into, is your body in support of your own goals, or are your resources being used to be the supporting body of somebody else's goals? Every single person, organization, or entity that exists in the world can be thought of this way. So any of these systems begin with some kind of flavor of a goal that they are trying to achieve. And to achieve that goal, they will incentivize others. They will give a goal to another person. And if that person chooses to accept that goal, that person, in essence, becomes now part of the supporting body of that higher system. So here's what's so powerful to understand. The relationships that exist between one agent and another agent, there are essentially only 5 basic flavors that those relationships can come in. And when you understand those basic categories, you can start to recognize them at play in every relationship in your life. The 5 options all have a different feeling associated with them. Red, fear; amber, conformity; orange, achievement; green, pleasure; blue, love. And I can tell you right now that your bank isn't working with you because it loves you. All banks as a business have an orange aim, an achievement-oriented aim. They're just trying to achieve the next level of profit that could be possible. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you've ever tried to run a mile just a little bit faster than you did last time, that kind of motivation can still be useful. But you want to be aware of what are the motivations, the goals that are at play with the organizations that you are connected to. So a bank has this achievement flavored goal that it is striving for. How does it incentivize other people to participate in supporting the realization of those goals? In this scenario, the dominant incentive that is being used is a amber or conformity flavored incentive. Think about it. Why would anybody bring their money to a bank right now? The answer for many people is that that's what people do. That's the status quo. That's the norm. Everybody knows that you just put your money in the bank. So the goal that most people are simply trying to realize is just trying to conform, trying to follow the way that the world seems to work. Simply adopting this mindset is enough to establish a body large enough for these organizations to realize the goals that they're striving for. The nice thing about this form of manipulation is that you don't have to have a reason or an answer. You just simply tell people that's because this is what we do. You bring your money to the bank because that's what people do. Now, of course, there will be people who ask, why? Give me a reason why this is the way that things are. And the reasons that follow behind are the different flavors. The flavor of fear. Well, you don't want to keep money inside of your house. What if your house burns down? Keep your money with us because we're going to help you keep your money safe. If that's not enough, the banks also have an orange achievement flavored form of incentive in the form of the interest rates that you'll get back for participating in this game. And then of course you have a bit of convenience, a bit of pleasure. If you loan your money to the bank, you can use a debit card. You don't have to carry all that money around with you. All of these are examples of how a bank can put you into a situation where you are perceiving a very specific set of problems, and trying to solve those problems happens to be aligned with helping an organization realize its goals. Every relationship that you have with another person or another organization falls into one of these 5 basic categories, whether you are aware of it or not. As you become more aware of the nature of these patterns, you can use that information to design a life in which you experience more freedom and more control. And that, of course, is what this channel is all about. So subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you want to take a deep dive on understanding even more about these 5 categories that we talked about, check out this video next. We'll see you next time.